For centuries, the Ottoman Empire ruled over one of the most diverse populations in world history. Stretching across Europe, Asia, and Africa, the empire governed lands that differed widely in language, culture, religion, and economic life. Its success did not rest solely on military conquest. Instead, the Ottomans built a system of flexible and pragmatic governance that emphasized stability, fair taxation, and local autonomy. This approach made Ottoman rule not only manageable, but in many regions, acceptable and even welcome. From its earliest expansion, the Ottoman state faced a central challenge: how to control newly conquered territories without constant rebellion. Rather than imposing a rigid, one-size-fits-all system, Ottoman rulers chose adaptation. Local customs were often preserved, existing institutions were absorbed into imperial administration, and local elites were incorporated rather than destroyed. This policy reduced resistance and allowed the empire to expand rapidly without overstretching its resources. Stability was the core priority of Ottoman governance. The state viewed order as more important than cultural or administrative uniformity. As long as regions remained peaceful, paid taxes, and recognized the authority of the Sultan, they were allowed considerable freedom in managing their internal affairs. This focus on stability created a predictable political environment, which was especially valued in regions that had previously suffered from frequent warfare and shifting rulers. Taxation played a central role in this system. The Ottomans developed a structured and relatively transparent tax system that aimed to be consistent rather than arbitrary. Taxes were assessed based on land productivity, population, and local economic conditions. By standardizing tax obligations, the empire reduced exploitation by local officials and made revenue collection more efficient. For many peasants and urban residents, Ottoman taxation was seen as fairer than the practices of earlier rulers or competing powers. One of the most important administrative tools supporting this system was the Taimar system. Under this arrangement, land revenues were assigned to cavalry officers in exchange for military service. These officers were responsible for maintaining order and ensuring tax collection in their assigned areas. Because their income depended on the productivity of the land, they had an incentive to protect peasants and promote stability. This system linked military strength directly to good governance at the local level. Local autonomy further strengthened Ottoman rule. Provincial governors were appointed by the central government, but they often relied on local leaders, religious figures, and notables to administer daily affairs. Village elders, guild leaders, and community representatives played key roles in resolving disputes and organizing economic life. This partnership between imperial authority and local leadership allowed governance to function smoothly across vast distances. In many conquered regions, Ottoman rulers deliberately avoided disrupting established social and legal systems. In the Balkans, Christian communities retained their churches and local traditions. In the Arab provinces, Islamic legal practices continued alongside imperial regulations. In North Africa, existing administrative customs were integrated into Ottoman frameworks. This continuity helped populations adjust to new rulers without feeling uprooted or oppressed. Pragmatism also defined the empire's legal system. Multiple courts operated simultaneously, allowing people to choose forums that best suited their needs. Islamic courts handled matters involving Muslims and state law, while religious courts managed personal and communal issues for non-Muslims. This legal pluralism reduced conflict and prevented the state from being overwhelmed by local disputes. The Ottoman approach contrasted sharply with that of many European states of the same period. In Europe, centralized monarchies often sought uniform laws, languages, and religions, sometimes through force. These policies sparked resistance, revolts, and prolonged wars. By comparison, the Ottoman model relied on accommodation and negotiation, limiting unrest and lowering the cost of rule. Economic governance also reflected flexibility. Trade regulations were adapted to local conditions, and merchants were encouraged rather than restricted. Cities were granted privileges that supported commerce, while rural areas were protected from excessive taxation. Infrastructure investments, such as roads, bridges, and marketplaces, were designed to support regional economies and integrate them into imperial networks. Over time, this pragmatic system created loyalty among subject populations. Many communities came to see Ottoman rule as a source of protection against chaos, foreign invasion, or local exploitation. In some regions, the transition to Ottoman control brought greater security and economic opportunity than existed before. However, the system was not without limits. As the empire expanded and global conditions changed, maintaining balance became more difficult. Population growth, economic shifts, and military pressures strained administrative structures. In later centuries, corruption and centralization weakened local autonomy, reducing the effectiveness of earlier practices. Despite these challenges, the legacy of flexible governance remained one of the empire's greatest strengths. Even during periods of decline, Ottoman administrative traditions continued to influence local governance across the empire. Many modern states in the Middle East and Balkans inherited administrative practices shaped by centuries of Ottoman rule. The collapse of the empire in the early 20th century ended Ottoman political authority, but not its governing philosophy. The idea that stability can be achieved through adaptation, fairness, and respect for local conditions remains relevant today. The Ottoman experience demonstrates that long-lasting rule is not achieved through force alone, but through a careful balance between central power and local autonomy. In the end, the Ottoman Empire's endurance was built on more than military victories. Its flexible and pragmatic governance transformed diversity into manageability and conquest into cooperation. By focusing on stability, fair taxation, and local autonomy, the empire created a system of rule that many subjects accepted, and at times even welcomed, allowing it to survive for nearly 600 years across 3 continents.